Good morning, and welcome to NewSpace 2014. I'm Sarah Jennings, the conference chair, so if you have any questions or concerns throughout the event, please feel free to contact me or any of my staff. And without further ado, I'd like to start off the conference by introducing our chairman of the board, Jeff Feige.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. It's a lot of fun to be doing the NewSpace conference. I'm not sure if anyone knows sort of my personal history, but I've been involved with the Space Frontier Foundation for something like a decade now. And my wife actually ran NewSpace 1. And here we are at NewSpace 9, so it's a cool opportunity to sort of see how much things have changed. And I guess speaking of change, I want to just take a few minutes here to tell you about the Space Frontier Foundation and who we are and what we do, and a little bit about what has been changing within our organization over the last year, because a lot of things are coming along, and I want to make sure everyone understands sort of where we're going, why we're here, and how exciting the world is as we move ahead. Okay, this year, 2014, is the 26th year since the founding of the Space Frontier Foundation. And importantly, for my part, it is the first year that I'm the chairman of the board. I'm also the first new chairman of the board that we've ever had. For the 25 years preceding this, the chairman of the board was a gentleman by the name of Bob Werb, who was one of the 3 founders of the organization. And so what you see in myself and so many of the young people who are running this event and who are otherwise working and around is sort of a passing of the torch from one generation to the next of people who are working to open the space frontier. And speaking of that, I want to take a moment to talk to you about what this organization is, who we are, and what we're trying to do. There are basically 3 things that I want to get across to you. The first is that this organization exists because we are dedicated to space settlement. And that means people going to space to live and work there. The second thing, I like to use the phrase speaking truth to power, or issue honesty, or some flavor of telling you what you've always known, but that much of the rest of our industry and people in sort of the more traditional places might be a little bit hesitant to say in public. And I think that that's one of the strengths of our organization. And the third thing is that who foundationers are. That if you're involved with the Space Frontier Foundation, you tend to be a doer in the industry. So let me just focus on those 3 points for just another moment, and then I'll promise I'll hustle off the stage and bring our next speaker up. To talk about settlement for a moment. And if you look at our website, you'll see that this is an organization dedicated to opening the space frontier to human settlement as rapidly as possible. Now, what that means is that we are trying to support the industry, support legislative activities, support advocacy, support any activity that moves us towards that goal. There are lots of organizations that are supportive of space, that are supportive of technology, that are just generally excited about those things. We're not just excited, we're focused, and we're trying to get everyone towards a specific goal. Now, that issue of issue honesty or truth to power. I've always thought of this being the organization that was willing, to tell the country or the industry or NASA, your baby's ugly. We've always been the one who's willing to say what everyone else needs to hear, often to a fault. We are the organization that is willing to say this program or this policy might be good for a particular state, might be good for a particular company, but it's not good for the country. It's not something that's going to advance settlement. And when I think about the Space Frontier Foundation, I think about an organization that is willing to say that. If I think about how I hope to lead the organization as chairman of the board, my hope would be that we continue to do that, but do it in a way that actually drives people towards listening to the message. That isn't so shrill that it's impossible to understand what we're saying, but is delivered in an effective manner. The last thing I want to take just a moment on is who foundationers are. We are the doers of the industry. People who've given this speech before, where they open up the NewSpace conference, sometimes have referenced, before the people who are becoming the big names in NewSpace, whether it's Musk or Bigelow or whoever, they always say, well, before those people were that, they would come to this conference, and this is where those ideas would come from, that this is the ideological home of the NewSpace movement. And while that's right, I want to focus on a slightly different example. So last night, I had the privilege of talking to our staff, all of the volunteers you see, all the underpaid and underfed people, the young people who are around here. Please buy them a drink, buy them dinner if you see them around, who helped put this event on. And I was sitting in the back of the room, and they were doing their introductions, just to make sure everyone knew everyone else's names. And it was a very traditional sort of thing. I think we've all seen these sort of things before where, they pass the microphone, they say, tell us your name, your favorite color, and why you're here. And the striking thing was everybody said their name, but when they had to answer that question of why they're here, they would name, I'm interested in the industry or whatever, and every single one of them says, and I'm going to change the world by doing something in space. And that was a really cool moment. And that was when I sort of realized, I said, that's why they're here, because this is the organization where, yes, you might be an advocate, you might be a volunteer, you might be whatever, but you're here because you're trying to change everything via space in the space industry. So I think that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of who we are, who the organization is, and what we're trying to do. When I think about basically this conference, what does the word NewSpace mean? What does that mean for all of us? I think of what the foundation does, and the point I want to drive home here is that NewSpace is not just a sub-part of the space industry. NewSpace is not just, those are the entrepreneurial guys in the space industry. We are, but NewSpace is a movement. It is a part of the industry. It is about activism. It is about ideology. It is about politics. It is a way of thinking about what we do in space, how we do it. And I could go on for quite a while telling you sort of my thoughts on that and giving you examples, but rather than do that, I'm going to pass things along to the next speaker, let this conference get underway. One last thing, sort of an announcement, but it was something that was brought up just recently, and I am super excited about this because this is pretty cool. So when any of you were coming into the conference, you were handed a blue raffle ticket. And that blue raffle ticket says Made in Space on it. If you didn't get one, run up to the registration desk and get one. Okay, so this is a pretty cool opportunity. If you registered for the conference, you're entitled to one of those tickets. You fill out your name on the back, go to the Made in Space booth, which is in the exhibit hall next door. Drop that raffle ticket in. Should you be lucky enough to win, and since you're all entered, you might as well check and see if you won. Should you be lucky enough to win, Made in Space, who are the guys, if you're unfamiliar, they're the guys who have a 3D printer on the ISS now. They are giving away a 3D printed part to one of the attendees of this conference. So make sure you check for that. It's a pretty cool giveaway. I'm really excited about it. I'm gonna pass the torch here quickly and hustle off stage as quick as I can. But thank you very much for attending. I'm really excited about this conference. If you have questions about the Space Frontier Foundation, please talk to me or anybody wearing one of these Space Frontier Foundation pins, because they're the advocates. They're the folks who've been with the organization for a long time and are changing the industry. And thank you very much for coming.